In this video, we'll talk about the election of Thomas Jefferson as he's entering the White House. We'll talk about the Judiciary Act of 1801, and we'll also talk about his decision to purchase Louisiana. The Judiciary Act that was passed by the Federalists in 1801, the night before John Adams left office, expanded the judiciary to include 16 additional judges, which basically were packed by John Adams as he elected Federalists, or he appointed Federalist judges to those positions in an effort to stick Thomas Jefferson with 16 additional Federalist judges because he knew that he had to leave office. Chief Justice John Marshall was a cousin of Jefferson and was Chief Justice of the Supreme Court during that time period, and he had also served at Valley Forge. He was impressed with the drawbacks of no central authority and thus became a lifelong Federalist. So even though he's related to Jefferson, he is a believer in the Federalist Party, not the Democratic Republicans. Basically, one of the judges that had been appointed, that was called one of these midnight judges that was appointed by Adams, his name was William Marbury. And William Marbury was appointed by John Adams as a midnight judge in his last hours as president. He had been named Justice of the Peace for D.C., but when Secretary of State James Madison, under Thomas Jefferson, decided not to try to fill these positions, Marbury sued for the delivery of the papers that said that he had gotten the position. John Marshall dismissed the case, but as part of this case, basically what he said was that part of the Judiciary Act of 1789 was unconstitutional. The part of the act that said that the people who were appointed had to actually sign the contract in order for it to be valid. Marshall said that that was not true, and basically said that the judges that were appointed by Adams in the middle of the night, they were supposed to be able to take those positions regardless of whether they actually signed contracts or not. This court case, Marbury versus Madison, basically gives the Supreme Court the power of what's called judicial review. And judicial review basically says that it has the opportunity to declare a law of Congress unconstitutional. In 1804, Jefferson tried to impeach Supreme Court Justice Samuel Chase, but not enough votes were mustered, and to this day, no attempt to alter the Supreme Court has ever been tried through impeachment again. Jefferson reduced the militia to 2,500 men, and the Navy was also reduced further to peacetime footing. So Jefferson was reducing the size of the Army and Navy to reduce the costs and size of the federal government. However, now he's faced with a decision where pirates in the North African Barbary states were stopping and looting U.S. ships. In 1801, the Pasha of Tripoli indirectly declares war on the United States when he interferes with the American consulate by cutting down the flagstaff outside. So now he has a situation where he's reduced the size of the Army and Navy, but now he may need them. So Jefferson, although he really would have wanted to not intervene, he had a problem facing him whether he should fight or not. And reluctantly, basically, he sends the smaller navy to the shores of Tripoli to try to deal with what was called the Barbary pirates. The Barbary states can be seen here on this map: Morocco, Algeria, Tunisia, and Tripoli. And Tripoli, basically right outside Tripoli, and Tunisia was where the majority of the issues were happening with the pirates stopping and looting American ships. Fighting continued for 4 years until Jefferson succeeded in extorting a treaty of peace from Tripoli in 1805 for a mere $60,000. The small mobile gunboats used in the Tripolitan War fascinated Jefferson, and he did spend money to build about 200 of them. After a hurricane in Savannah beached a boat 8 miles inland, Federalists challenged Jefferson and called the boats the best gunboats in the world on land. Next, we're going to look at the Louisiana Purchase. In 1800, Napoleon secretly induced the King of Spain to cede the Louisiana Territory to France. Then, in 1802, the Spaniards at New Orleans withdrew the right of deposit guaranteed by the Treaty of 1795. The port of New Orleans was of particular concern to the United States because that was how the United States was able to ship goods to within the country as well as to other countries. Affected farmers talked of marching to New Orleans to violently get back what they deserved, an action that could have plunged the U.S. into war with Spain and France. In 1803, Jefferson sent James Monroe to join regular minister Robert R. Livingston to buy New Orleans and as much land to the east for a total of $10 million. Instead, Napoleon offered to sell New Orleans and the land west of it, Louisiana, for a bargain of $15 million. This is technically called the largest real estate deal of the United States because of such a large area that was able to be purchased with only $15 million. This was due, basically, Napoleon wanted to sell the land due to the rebellion in Haiti led by Toussaint Louverture, and because Napoleon really needed cash to be able to continue and go to war with Great Britain in Europe. The Louisiana Purchase was finalized on April 30th, 1803. Jefferson had a dilemma since this was not what he had authorized and believed that it was unconstitutional. But basically, Jefferson goes against his political beliefs and purchases Louisiana anyway, even though he thinks he might not have the power to do that. But it doubled the size of the United States, and so it was truly a deal that he could not pass up. After considering an amendment, Jefferson decided to go through with the deal, and even though nothing in the Constitution talks about land purchases, and Jefferson had been a strict interpreter of the Constitution, he decides that the purchase is in the best interests of the country. The Senate quickly approves the deal, and it was the biggest real estate bargain in history at 3 cents per acre of land. The area purchased in the Louisiana Purchase can be seen here in this area. You can clearly see that New Orleans, at the mouth of the Mississippi, was part of the purchase. The Spanish still held Florida, and the borderline between Florida and the United States will actually be defined at this time as well. The purchase created a precedent of acquisition for foreign territory through purchase. In the spring of 1804, Jefferson sent William Clark and Meriwether Lewis to explore this new territory. Along with a Shoshone woman named Sacagawea, which is actually technically said Sacagawea, the new explorers spent 2.5 years exploring the land, marveling at the expanses of animals, and went all the way to Oregon and the Pacific before returning. They actually had 3 specific goals in the Lewis and Clark expedition. They were supposed to find a route to the Pacific Ocean by land. They were supposed to bring back examples of plants and animals that they found along the way, and they were supposed to investigate the Native American tribes and languages that they spoke, that they encountered on the land as they were traveling. Zebulon Pike also trekked to the headwaters of the Mississippi River in 1805 to 1806 and ventured to the southern portion of Louisiana and sighted Pike's Peak. The Federalists now sank lower than ever and tried to scheme with Aaron Burr to make New England and New York secede from the United States. In the process, Aaron Burr, who had a political score to settle with Alexander Hamilton, challenges him to a duel and actually kills Alexander Hamilton in a duel in 1804. In 1806, Burr was arrested for treason after trying to unite the West and secede from the Union, but Chief Justice John Marshall said that in order to be